The storm raged through the city, its icy fingers clawing at the streets as Emma hurried forward, her heart pounding against her ribs. Her coat, already soaked through, clung to her skin as she pressed onward, driven by a mission that had become the very essence of her life, saving those who had no voice, no hope. She had dedicated years to rescuing lost, abandoned, and abused animals, giving them a second chance. And tonight, in the midst of the relentless downpour, she heard it. A sound so faint it was nearly swallowed by the wind, a soft, pitiful whimper. Emma froze, her breath catching in her throat. Her eyes scanned the deserted alleyway, its darkness punctuated only by the dim glow of a flickering streetlight. And then she saw it. A small, trembling figure curled against the cold, wet pavement. A dog, its fur caked with mud, its frail body shuddering with every breath. "Oh, sweetheart," Emma whispered, stepping forward with slow, deliberate movements. The dog lifted its head slightly, ears flattening in fear, but it didn't move. It was too weak, too exhausted to flee. Emma's heart ached at the sight. She knelt, extending a gentle hand, allowing the dog to take in her scent, to see that she was not a threat. "It's okay," she murmured, voice barely audible over the storm. "I've got you." Carefully, she unwrapped her scarf and draped it over the shivering creature before lifting it into her arms. The dog whimpered but didn't resist, its body limp from exhaustion. Emma held it close, shielding it from the rain as she hurried back to her car, her own body chilled to the bone. By the time she arrived at the Haven, her small but well-loved animal shelter, her hands were trembling. She rushed inside, shutting out the storm behind her. With practiced efficiency, she dried the dog, wrapped it in warm blankets, and placed a bowl of food in front of it. The dog sniffed hesitantly before taking small, desperate bites. Emma sat beside it, stroking its filthy but soft fur, whispering reassurances. "You're safe now," she promised. "No one will hurt you again." She named him Benny. The next morning, Benny was still weak but no longer terrified. His eyes, once clouded with fear, now held a flicker of trust. Emma watched as he hesitantly licked her hand, a small but significant gesture. She smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. It was moments like these that made the sleepless nights, the heartbreak, the constant struggle worth it. Benny wasn't the only rescue that week. Just days before, Emma had stumbled upon a litter of kittens, no more than a few days old, abandoned in a cardboard box near a dumpster. Their tiny cries had pierced the silence of the alley, sending shivers down her spine. She had scooped them up, cradling their fragile bodies against her chest, whispering to them as she carried them to safety. Now they rested in a cozy basket at the Haven, their bellies full, their fur clean. They were still so small, their eyes barely open, their meows soft but insistent. Emma watched over them, her fingers brushing lightly against their tiny heads. She had saved them, and now she would find them homes where they would never know abandonment again. Every animal at the Haven had a story. Some, like Benny, had been left to die on the streets. Others had been torn from abusive homes, their spirits shattered. But here, in this sanctuary, Emma had built with her own hands. They would heal. They would learn to trust again. And when the time was right, they would find families who would cherish them forever. One by one, they transformed. Benny, who had once flinched at human touch, now wagged his tail eagerly when Emma entered the room. The kittens, who had once been weak and fragile, now tumbled over each other in playful chaos. Their pasts were tragic, but their futures were bright. Emma worked tirelessly, matching each animal with the perfect home. She saw connections form before her eyes, like Lisa, the retired teacher who had always wanted a cat but never had the chance. The moment she met Whiskers, one of the rescued kittens, her eyes welled with tears. "He's perfect," she whispered, cradling the tiny ball of fur in her hands. Then there was the Thompson family, who had lost their beloved senior dog just months before. They had sworn they wouldn't get another pet, until they met Benny. The once timid dog pressed his head against their hands, his tail wagging shyly. It was all they needed to see. "We'll take him," they said, their voices thick with emotion. Every adoption was bittersweet. Emma poured her heart into every rescue, every rehabilitation. Saying goodbye was never easy, but knowing they were going to homes where they would be loved made it all worthwhile. She watched as Benny trotted out the door, his tail high, his eyes bright with excitement. He had found his family. He had found his home, but there was no time to rest. As Benny left, another call came in. A stray mother cat with newborn kittens needed help. Emma didn't hesitate. She grabbed her coat, her keys, and rushed out the door into the night. Because for every animal she saved, there was always another waiting, another soul in need of love, another story yet to be written, and Emma would be there, ready to turn their tragedies into triumphs, ready to give them the life they had always deserved.